Okay, so I have a 2010 Nissan 370Z, and replacing the steering rack is actually pretty easy. So I got it all back in. Shouldn't take you more than an hour. Okay, so first what you want to do is loosen up this nut over here. This is gonna be an 18. Just loosen it up, and then do the same for the other side. Loosen it up, and then come over here to loosen this nut over here on the tie rod. That's a 22, and this is gonna be a 13. Loosen those. Same thing for this end. Then after that, what you want to do is grab a hammer and then just smack right here to where it gets loose, and you want to do the same for the opposite side. Smack it right there till it's loose, and then after all that is done, come over here. You're gonna have this big metal plate right here. So all of it is 1, 2, 3, 4 16s with a washer right there, and then another over here, 1 and 2. So it's gonna be 2, 4, 6 16s total, and then you got these 17s. I believe they're 17. These are 17 bolts, and then this whole metal plate should come right off, and then you have the whole steering rack exposed, right? And the only thing that's holding the steering rack is this. I think it's a 17. Let me see. It is. Okay, so yeah, this is the 17. This is also a 17. Or is that a 16? It's kind of loose. So these are 17s. And above this bolt right here that holds the steering rack is a 19mm nut. So grab a 19mm wrench. Here's a wrench right here. And also grab one of these to mark the steering column whenever we remove it. So what I did was I snuck, okay, so you see right here, that's where the rack is. So I snuck, obviously the car was off, so I snuck the 19mm wrench up here to have it over here to this side, and then I just used my 17 impact on this end to remove that, and then come over here and then take off these 10mm that hold this cover. And under here you're gonna have a connector. That's the connector. It's just a push and then you pull out. And this is also the same area I use to sneak in the 19mm wrench to get above this bolt, to get on top of here, because that's where the nut is at. So it's a bolt and a nut that hold the steering rack. So 19mm, just sneak it above, around through here, and then get that 17 bolt out of there. After that, well, before you actually remove the entire rack, you're gonna have these two lines over here. So you're gonna have that, you see that little clamp right there? Right here, that clamp right there. So that clamp, remove, and then this is gonna be a 14. Make sure you use a flare nut wrench. That way you don't round it off, and it's gonna come with O-rings. Hopefully you get new O-rings that come with it. Replace those. And this is what you're going to be using. This is what I mean by the flare nut wrench. These right here. So you're going to use the 14 to loosen it, and then from there you could just use a regular 14mm wrench to remove it completely. Also, for the clamp that was on that line, that clamp may not be accessible like mine was because I had to move it, but you get yourself this tool right here, this, to be able to get to the side of the clamp, because for you it'll probably be facing that way, so it's probably hard to get like some pliers to loosen those up. But I have mine facing this way now. Underneath that little cover sleeve is the clamp. You see how it's facing to the right? At first it was just pointing towards up or a little bit to the left, so I used that tool to bring it to this side, and then from there I finished it off with my pliers. Now getting this line will be hard. So what I did was, in between the rubber hose and that little bolt, looks like a bolt. Let me see. Let's see. So right here, I used a flathead to create some gap in between, and then I used this tool over here, which helped out a lot. See, you just make a gap and then you slide these in between, and then you just press on the tool and it should separate it. So that's what I use, because sometimes they could get really stuck in there, and that tool makes it easier. So like I said, just grab a flathead and try to make a nice decent gap to where you can sneak that tool in and then separate it. And then this is just a 14. So whenever you put it in the back, make sure you straighten it before you start tightening it back up again. So that's for that. And then over here, you're gonna have this 12mm. So I got this, you see those little marks right there, those 2 dots. So I marked it with this marker over here. That way I center it and put it back to its original place. After you mark it, use a 12mm swivel with an extension to remove this bolt. And then the column, you can slightly push it up. And then once you have it removed, you're gonna have to also swap this part over to the new rack, and you'll probably have to swap over the outer tie rods onto the new rack as well. That's why I had you loosen them first. And then all it is that's holding this piece with the rack is this other 12mm right here as well. Whenever you're moving it over, make sure you move it the same direction as this one whenever you're swapping it over to the new part. And that's pretty much it. Oh, you also will have to swap this part over to the new one. I believe this was a 17 or an 18. Let me check that out for you guys. I don't think it was a 19, but so it's about a 7. It's about an 18 or a. Okay, so yeah, it's about an 18 because 19 is barely messing it. So a 19 to swap that over, not a 19, an 18 to swap that part over, and make sure you replace the O-rings for both. And then you're gonna have this. My rack came with this, so I didn't have to swap it over. So this is the new one. Again, it came with the new part, and then this just runs to the back. And to loosen it, you'll have these little clips all the way around. 1, 2, 3, about 3 more clips that hold that wire harness down. And that's about it. It's pretty easy. You don't have to drop the frame or nothing. Whenever you put in the fluid back in, the new one, top it off. Top off the fluid, start the vehicle, turn it off, refill it, turn the vehicle back on, and then just do back and forth on the steering wheel to bleed out the air that's in the system. And then from there, just tighten everything back the way it was. Pretty simple, pretty easy. Might want to have an oil oil pan to catch that, oil catcher, whatever you want to call it. So, yep, pretty easy.